Alice, and the many, many sisters who have participated in the preparations to make this convocation a reality, we welcome you. We hope that our preparations are tangible signs of the warm, sincere welcome that we extend to you. We look forward to spending these days together because a succession of 6 days together rarely happens. The sisters at St. Joseph Hall are following us in the lounge, and there are also other sisters from our local convents who are following us. And we're able to do this through the expertise of Sister Elizabeth D'Alessio, so I'm very grateful that she made it possible. So for those who are afar and they're listening to us, we welcome you too, and we're so happy that we're connected with you. Sisters, unfortunately, the elevator for St. Joseph Hall is under repair, and some of the sisters of St. Joseph Hall wanted to be in here today, and we were given them the opportunity, and I'm really very disappointed for them. But Avis was so kind, and she said that she will make a point of doing a few of her talks just to them directly. I'm very pleased and thankful that nothing prevented each of you who are here from being here, especially because of ill health reasons, which accounts for the absence of some of our sisters. Now, those of us who worked on the team, we do realize that everything is not perfect, but I do want you to know that we made every effort to make things comfortable, prayerful, and engaging for you. May this convention really be another memorable event of some of our other convocations, Malvern in 1999 and in 2010, our centennial year. It is our prayer that you come here today with the same anticipation, sentiments, and spirit that are expressed in this welcome to you. At this time, I want to acknowledge Sister Frances Loretti among us. I'm so happy you already gave her a warm welcome. We're pleased that she is with us, and Mother General also wanted to be a little part of this day, so she sent us a short greeting that she asked that Sister Frances read to you. Sister Frances. It's in English. I was translated.
Dear sisters, we are fraternally united with you in this formative community encounter. May it be a precious pause for reflection so that you may find in the light of the Spirit the perennial youthfulness of consecrated life, the joy of a rich spirituality, true fraternal communion, and a generous witness of a life given for the glory of God in the service of our brothers and sisters. Sincerely in the Lord, Sister Nicolina Bonjera, Superior General.
Thank you, Sister Frances. Sisters, just a few reminders as we move forward. You will find in your folders a schedule, it was on a yellow sheet, of everything that we're going to do here during this week. And there might be some adjustments as we go along, but the schedule is in your folders. Along with that, there's also a schedule with the topics of all the talks that Avis will be delivering throughout the week. So you have 2 sheets that are referred to the schedules. Also, during the time that you're here, I ask that you enjoy some of the outdoors of the mansion porch, the Rosary Garden at St. Joseph Hall, the patio at the end of the Blue Bridge, and also the patio mansion. It's by the mansion lobby elevator. So there are different areas that you might want to gather and share with your sister friends. This convocation is really a time for us to share with one another. While it takes the place of our annual retreat, this is not going to be a silent retreat. However, there will be some boundaries. I'm asking that From now on, when you enter this wing of the Holy Family Chapel area in this room, that we respect this as sacred place. This way, if there's someone who's looking for a quiet place to come, they know that they could come within this area. Now, there are some evenings that we'll return back to this room. Anything after supper is free, but before that, we would ask that you consider this a sacred space. Also, in your bedroom areas, there are some sisters that are looking forward to this week so they could rest. So I'm asking that in the bedroom areas, in the afternoon, in the evening, that you please do not make any noise in the bedroom areas. There are the lounges that you could go into. You can stay out on those patios that I was just talking about. You could come up to the dining room and enjoy. But I ask you, please do not make noise in the bedroom areas, because some people will come back and they'll be very upset that they couldn't sleep because of the noise. If you're going to be on your cell phones, if you would not do it in your bedrooms, that you would go in some of the places that I've mentioned. The place is big enough for you to find an area where you could enjoy one another, because I do want you to enjoy one another. I'm also asking that during this week, because we're looking more for a bonding and we want to be quiet on the bedroom floors, that you refrain from using the televisions in the bedrooms and the lounges. Use the bedroom area, I repeat, for quiet, the lounges for getting together and enjoying one another. After Mass this evening, we're going to take a photo, as I mentioned in my letter to you. We're going to do one photo with the bishop, one photo without. I know we did a photo in Genesis Day at the Holy Family Chapel, but it was very obvious that a lot of people were missing. And although our number is declining, it hasn't declined that much. So I think we have a good enough attendance to have a very nice photo taken in the St. Lucy Chapel. And Sister Betsy D'Alessio is going to be directing that. So if you would give her, so it could move very quickly because we want to come over for dinner, if you would give her the attention that she needs. There are a few procedures regarding the dining room and other little household items that I'm going to ask Sister Alice to please share with the group.
Thank you, Sister Shenza. I also, is this on? I turned it on. I don't know, I just moved. Is that on? Okay. Okay, so thank you, Sister Shenza. I also want to welcome you home. This is your mother house, and I hope you have a wonderful 6 days here. I trust that you found your room and everything is okay for you. If you should need anything in your room, during today or during the week, or if by some chance you lock yourself out of your room, which happens, just feel free to let me know, and then I'll get some help on the way for you, okay? In every shower room, you'll find an assortment of soaps and toiletries. They're there for you for this week and also to take home. And we're grateful to our benefactors who have provided them. In the dining room, you will see all the places will be set for today. Feel free to sit anywhere you like. And then if you would kindly reset your tables each day, that way when we go around with little gifts and things that we're going to be putting out, we'll know who's sitting where, and we'll put one at every place. You may want to take turns washing the silverware and glasses for each other. As you know, we put our plates and bowls and things on the cart, and the staff takes care of putting them through the machine. But our silverware and our glasses and mugs are our responsibility. So to keep the traffic down at the sinks, if you want to help each other, take turns or whatever, that may make it move along. And then, as I said, just reset your table at the end of the meal. An afternoon snack will be provided each day, but feel free to help yourself to coffee, tea, or juice throughout the day. And also, I wanted to let you know that the red and the blue doors will be unlocked for you every day. So if you want to go out for fresh air, you don't have to worry about getting locked out. And once again, if there's anything you need, feel free to ask me for. Thank you.
Thank you. Sisters, all in all, I really want this to be a time that we spend together. I want this time to be life-giving, enriching. Otherwise, we're going to defeat the purpose for which we gathered this week. So let us attempt to bring to fruition all the beautiful prayers of petition that you have been praying every day for this last month. Remember, you wrote them, and this is what you wanted for the province. They are your voice. So may their fruits be absorbed in our lives during this time that we are together, and more importantly, as we return home. I have been very anxious to introduce Avis Clendenin to the community. Last year, I attended one of Avis's presentations, and on my way riding home, I thought, wow, I wish Avis could be the presenter for our convocation. Never thinking it would happen because I know she's a busy person. She's from Chicago. But I have to say, for me, today is a wish come true because she said yes to the invitation, and I keep on thanking you for doing that, Avis. Avis comes to us, as I said, from Chicago. She has been connected with the Sisters of Mercy for 50 years as an associate with the Chicago Sisters of Mercy. She comes very experienced in the life of the church, and this will be visible to you as the presentations unfold. Her ministerial career began in secondary education, and last week she retired from Xavier University after giving 35 years of service there. So she comes to us in a time of transition. At the time of her departure from the university, she served as special assistant to the president. Prior to that, Avis served on the university's faculty for 25 years and concluded her teaching career as professor emerita of religious studies. She taught undergraduate and graduate courses in the area of pastoral theology, ministry, and the intersections of spirituality and psychology. She founded, directed, and taught in the university's Pastoral Ministry Institute and provided the theological components for the lay ecclesial ministry program in the Archdiocese of Chicago. She has also authored and co-authored books and many scholarly articles. She is currently co-authoring a manuscript entitled Forgiving God, Healing Fractures and the Divine-Human Relationship. Avis retired from university life, but she will not be retired. She will focus more on offering retreats on spirituality of elder years, particularly for women religious. She developed a number of presentations on the life and vision of the 12th century Benedictine abbess and doctor of the church, Saint Hildegard, and has prepared retreats and days of reflection on various themes regarding the growth in one's spiritual life. She has offered retreats to various religious communities around the United States. She writes that she never anticipated these invitations and finds each experience a graced challenge and gift beyond measure. Hopefully, we'll be included in this. Other than the fact that I was impressed with Avis's presentation, which I attended, what really prompted me to extend this invitation is her approach. Before speaking to a religious community, she studies the community she addresses. She learns its founders, constitution, charism, mission, and integrates this into her presentations. The council has had conference calls with Avis these last few months, and many emails have gone back and forth. Allow me to share a sampling, if you don't mind, Avis, of one of the similar emails to illustrate Avis's efforts in getting to know us. I received this email on Palm Sunday this year, which was March 25th, and you all know what March 25th means to us. She writes, I am aware that today is the 286th anniversary of Lucy's death. My Lenten journey has been focused on meeting her, your community's charism, and the mystery of the seeding and harvesting wrought by the religious teachers Filippini over 108 years serving God's people in America. As we enter Holy Week, I am humbled to imagine my time with the community in June. As the Easter season arrives, I will be ready to integrate St. Lucy's legacy and the many ways Filippini sisters have embodied her living charism into each session of our time together in June. My preparations have only increased my sense of unworthiness to be the one to facilitate time with all of you, but I shall do my best to make the days worthy of the sacred trust you have placed in me. Thinking of you and the community as this Holy Week unfolds, with this entry corresponding to the anniversary of St. Lucy's homecoming in God. Sincerely, Avis. This is, as I said, only one of many emails that capture the spirit of this woman who I am confident will inspire us in these coming days. So without any further words, I ask that you join me in welcoming Avis to the group.
I really wrote that, huh? I imagined this moment many times over the last year since we began talking about it. I'm really privileged to be here. And I'm privileged as well to be speaking now to the sisters at St. Joseph Hall, who I had an opportunity, I think we met about 15 of them, so that I wouldn't just be a face on a screen right now, but have some connection with you. And my hope is, as this week unfolds, especially in light of not having that the elevator, that I'll be able to go over there and have a more personal connection with you myself as the week unfolds. I wanted, before I begin, to make mention that every session has a handout, and you have it there. The handout has a collection of some of the insights that I'll be offering. If I use a piece of poetry, that might be there, a short reading if I quote from someone, and some of the images, so that you could anticipate that will form opportunity for your own personal, private, continued reflection, or opportunity for conversation. We had talked quite a while ago about the possibility of my finding a reading for every meal, for the noon meal, but that didn't naturally happen. And then it dawned on me, it's a week of a lot of words, and it's also a time for you with each other after a separation of about 8 years, where you haven't come together quite like this. So my hope would be the meal, the table experience would be conversation that matters, and maybe be the living text for each other. So that's that plan. And again, just before I get rolling, the charism of attentiveness to others seemed very obvious to me. I mentioned first to Sister Mary Beth and then to Sister Alice that I needed a couple more hangers for my outfits. And I don't know where I was, but I don't know, about 9 o'clock last night, I looked out into the little office room, and there was a bag that Sister Geraldine had brought in. And so I took out the 6 that I needed, but there are about 60 additional hangers. And I texted saying, I think I received every available hanger at Villa Walsh. So if you need one, just see Sister. So here we are, entering your convocation with our opening session from Chronos to Kairos, summoning sacred time. I have to begin with a few words of confession. I never heard of St. Lucy Filippini. I never heard of the Filippini sisters until I met Sister Shenza a year ago with the Sisters of Mercy at Huacheng. And I'm embarrassed to say, as a career religious educator, and I thought a rather astute churchwoman, how could I not know your congregation? I said yes to these days, prompted by some mysterious nudge to do so. I'm completely unfit. Standing before you now is very humbling and a little scary, but somehow feels less so than 5 minutes ago. I can only say to you as we begin these special set-aside days, where Chronos just might, through our openness and trust in God's grace, become Kairos. I read all these books, and I watched the 2 videos that were sent to me, but probably more than the text was I would imagine, 15 hours I spent over these months going to the video, going to websites, and do what I call it a deep search, following things out, looking at your schools and your pictures. And I must say, I felt I kind of met Sister Lucy along the way. And so I moved from a certain abject fear, who do I think I am, to design a week of reflections for a community I never heard of, whose mission is new to me, whose founder and founding charism surprised me. How did I not meet St. Lucy in all of my years in theological and pastoral education? All I know is that I met her with a definitive force this past Lent. I entered the Filippini world these past months of preparation. And in a very real sense, it's not my summons. We're being open to the summons of the Spirit and her living charism in your midst. I can only say to you as we begin these special days that you're encountering someone, me, and hearing someone, me, and watching someone's efforts who met Sister Lucy and her daughters for the first time. I'm what it looks like when someone meets you for the first time. I'm what it sounds like when someone has encountered the charism of the religious teachers Filippini for the first time in the year 2018. My hidden prayer is that you meet her all over again, and in a sense, each other, as if for the first time. It's not hidden anymore because I have expressed it, that we might meet her all over again, and even you meeting each other as if for the first time. For me, this entree moment is already Kairos. In Forever Yes, we read, her teachers remembered her frequently repeated maxim, be of good heart, do not fear. Have confidence in God in all your troubles. God will provide for your needs in proportion to your faith. Lucy's confidence in God was without limit, and so is God's providence. I read from a daily meditation book entitled An Almanac for the Soul, an anthology of hope. Each period of time has what one might call an entrance meditation that captures the spirit of the week. I'd like to begin our time with the entry from Almanac for the Soul for these days we will be spending together. Summer visits us like a determined friend. Our lives are not what we do with years, but with the days. In summer, there are silences that call us to what is forever essential inside us. We have lived under many disguises across a lifetime. Summer makes us remember when we were disguised as boys and girls. Remember? The child mind is native to summer. Children do not try to make things fit that exhausting habit of adulthood. In the loosened days of summer, something calls out our name in the high grass, in the wind at the shore, or in the lingering of a long June afternoon. These summer sounds have something to do with destiny. We want to recognize, to know again, the something more about us that we tend to forget. I'll give you a moment. We want to recognize, to know again, the something more about us that we tend to forget. The solstice reminds us that everything keeps changing. The wheat on the plains, the corn on the prairie, and the wheeling purple martins of morning and evening. There are many ways to know what we desperately need to know. Sometimes we are only required to watch the rising and the falling of the light. There is wisdom in observing, in listening. These days are open gates to becoming aware again of the eternal rhythm on which we ride out our lives. The meditative breath focus is Isaiah 43:19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Here and now, I do a new thing. I am about to do something new. Sister Lucy was fond of quoting this verse from the prophet Joel, I will restore. And from the June 28th entry for Words to Grow and Live By for this very day. Our foundress had the gift of consoling the most disconsolate persons and restoring their joy in life, even in severe trials. At times, seeing them more depressed than usual, she would coax them to eat the food she had prepared so that they could regain their strength. Interestingly, isn't it, we're in an upper room on the 4th floor. The door is closed. We're surrounded by walls, permeable to the Spirit, of course. So may the Spirit of Pentecost, the Spirit of the prophets who make all things new and restore us, and the living charism of Sister Lucy break through, cross this threshold,
Yeah, so
Yes, for the
you're
first
seeing
time.
their camera,
Enter our midst and the words we speak,
but you have to be sitting in front of
the
the camera.
silences we share, and
Okay.
help us to enter.
Oh, mine, yeah, that's mine.
Let us enter the invitation
Who's that?
to be still.
I don't know if they can hear us. What? Can they hear us? Mute the mic. Yeah. I just said, they can hear us. Praise.
Time. It's the only context we have to embrace the scope of our lives. And yet at the same time, we live within the flow of ancestors and the sacred traditions that help us make sense of who and whose we are. I know that sand timers originated in Italy in the 14th century. Time was thought of flowing, and the sand timer became the expression of the flowing of time. I want to tell you a little story about my mother. This is my mother. Our sacred time together will have some storytelling. Stories are humble servants waiting upon the Spirit to take them home to our hearts. Our storytelling are humble servants waiting upon the Spirit to take those stories home into our heart. What time is it? A simple enough question. I asked it a number of times today. How frequently did you look at your watch or your cell phone to answer that question? What time is it? In our fast-paced technological society, the answer to such a question seems to be only a glance or simple question away from being answered. What time is it? Time flies, time races, time crawls, time is money. Like the tide, time waits for no one. But in more dramatic moments in our life, time seems to stand still. The wisdom of our ancestors in faith proclaimed that there is a time for every purpose under heaven. But then again, there never seems to be enough time. My mother died 17 years ago, this past June 17th. She was the only remaining member of my family of origin when she died. One by one, they passed from my midst without my permission, I might add. While the doctors reported to me in June of 2001 that there was no precise medical indication that my mother's death was near. She said to me, "Avis, I'm going home. I've lived my life," she whispered. "It's time to fade away." 48 hours after my 79-year-old mother died, she was looking at me as I was telling a story from our shared past. And then suddenly she reached up and she pulled me down toward her. And she said, "What happened to that time? I want that time back. Where did all the time go?" I was telling her a story about our shared past. She pulls me in. "What happened to that time? Where did all that time go? I want that time back." As spontaneously as she reached for me, in an absolute moment of grace, I said, "Mom, you lived that time. You lived all the time." Unbeknownst to me, that instant in time would be our last conversation. Since my mother's death, I think a lot about time, about the stark reality, as we know, that time on this side of the Great Divide does run out. There's only so much time available to live our lives, only so much time to take responsibility for the life that bears our own name. We are in our now. Sacred time of sacred days, when we are given the graced opportunity to know all over again, as if for the first time, the wisdom of the little prince. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. When Chronos holds Kairos, and we can get inside of time, allowing God's arms to embrace us into the mystery and the meaning of a new time that is ours. Deep in the etymology in Latin of the word star is the word desire. Interestingly, from the stars and the word desire share a connection. So this afternoon, I wonder, what is the desire in these Kairos hours for you? How do you identify and name and claim the desire that bears your own name this summer day? That navigational star that you are trying to discern individually and communally. As we know from Ignatian spirituality, one always begins sacred time with a pause at what it is you desire, long for, wish for, expect, await, what a holy stargazing can bring. So we are going to take a few moments to quietly consider what it is we can identify, name, and claim as the desire that bears our own name this summer day. That kind of navigational star you want to see rightly and brightly during these days. So what star are you gazing at, reaching for, sitting with, or running toward? We're gathering in convocation, convocare, to call forth together. to come together, to find both voice and silence in presence. Vocare, call. The voice. Convocation has begun. The invitation is to enter into it. Your centennial scriptural mandate, we move forward, rooted in Christ, strengthened in faith, overflowing with thankfulness to accomplish the mission entrusted to us. Such, sisters, is the stuff of weaving kairos from chronos. We move forward, rooted in Christ, strengthened in faith, overflowing with thankfulness to accomplish the mission entrusted to us. What is our stirring desire to bring that to birth? I'm wondering if we could take a couple of moments with those around us to explore that question. Can you name a desire you bring, a hope you hold for these special sacred days? And just listen in to each other for a moment. And we'll share some of that just for a few moments. Talk amongst yourselves.
Look at each one and be thankful for who they are as a Filipino and my sister in Christ. Then I think this convocation will be successful for me.
Thank you.
But it takes deep prayer. As we said, it takes deep prayer. And we really have to look at each other as sisters in Christ. You know, we can't be critical. You get that way sometimes when you don't see each other. So that's how I feel.
Thank you. So the desire, thank you. The desire you sensed is continued awareness that everyone in this room is a family, and that it takes a lush interior life to really be grateful enough for the gift of each other's love, and then to be able to express that, to move away from the critical comment to one that's going to build up the community. Thank you. Yes, please, Alice.
That moment when you said, here we are in the upper room, and we're surrounded by walls, but not close to the spirit, and then the flame was on the screen, and be still and know that I'm God. We were talking at our table about how it's easier and we more frequently experience our own private little temple worship to God and relation to God, but to come together as a community and be open to the Spirit is great. And we've already had a taste of that in that moment that you gave us.
Great.
That's a great hope for this congregation.
Thank you. So the context, and it's true for the sisters that are watching in St. Joseph Hall, we're surrounded by walls, but we're women who hold the conviction that the Spirit is very permeable and moving about setting aflame our desires to carry this forth, to be for each other, life-giving spirit. Yes, please.
The collectiveness to age gracefully in the spirit and in our own pace and time.
Yeah.
And know that God is always there with us.
Right. The desire to age gracefully in spirit
Collectiveness of mind and solidarity
with each other.
with each other.
Yeah.
Age gracefully and know
Yeah.
that God is present in each and every one of us at pace and time.
Yes. So not just individually, but the desire that we recognize collectively this growing in wisdom, age, and grace that is your life now. Yes, please. At the
In the here and now, to see God more clearly, where we are and with whom we are, and to be mindful of each gift that's given us in this time.
the desire in this here and now to see God more clearly. And there was the last part that you said. To be mindful of the gifts that each one has that are bringing to this.
The summons for the time that is ours, we hope in our community, we hope and we pray for vocations. And I've looked at that, but I've also looked at it is not about the quantity, but the quality of our sisters. And the quality is a great quality because we are all blessed as religious, and we are blessed with so many gifts, and that's a lot of quality instead of quantity. Put together, we can do this.
Mm-hmm. So to really relish and savor a desire to recognize that it's the quality of those who are responding to the call and not a quantity. Thank you. Fine, you'll be here.
Simply just looking for a deep transformation myself so that I can become part of the transformation of the community.
Okay. The desire to find and nurture a deep transformation within yourself so that can spill over and transform the community. Thank you. In the last decade, I kind of stumbled into this ministry of integrating insights of growing older with spiritual life and growth in the second half of life and in the second half of the second half of life. And so I've had the privilege for a decade of designing and facilitating retreats, primarily with women religious growing older. The elder years have their own summons. It would be a terrible mistake to think that you're just sinking away. Elder years aren't a sinking, but a summons. The years of active wisdom are not a shrinking or a sinking into life as if in quicksand. It's not summed up by deficits, but by a new summons. This is Sarah at 90. Biblical Sarah at 90. You remember the story. Surprise, surprise. I believe it's a summons to what the prolific Hebrew Bible scholar Walter Brueggemann said. The world for which you have been so carefully prepared is being taken from you by the grace of God. What does this mean? How carefully, how carefully. And here I want to specifically speak to the sisters at St. Joseph Hall, how carefully you prepared for those years of your more active ministry. Then, in the course of time, a dawning of an awareness that you needed to abandon what you dearly loved and trust God that God was in the personal, ministerial, and corporate loss. The loss of hearing, the loss of sight, the loss of mobility, and for some purposeful work, the loss of being needed, of institutions and institutional ministries. And to see this not as a robbery, but a spiritual relinquishment. To end up in such place by the grace of God requires an enormous act of trust and leap of faith. The woman that you see here on your right is Sister Mary Ellen Greeley, a Sister of Mercy from St. Louis. She entered the Sisters of Mercy in 1948. Her biological sister is behind her. She's to your left, excuse me, is behind her. They're both Sisters of Mercy. But I'm speaking about Sister Mary Ellen right here. So she entered in 1948, received degrees in music, and then went on and got a PhD in sociology of religion in the early 1970s. She had a very lush ministerial life in education, pastoral ministry, and healthcare. I remember meeting her at general chapters in 1970s. I was a Sister of Mercy from 1969 to 1983. That will come up a little later as well. But I was at general chapters in the 1970s. A few years back, I was at St. Catherine's residence in St. Louis, giving a retreat for elder Sisters of Mercy. And someone said to me, "Oh, Avis, you might remember Sister Ellen Greeley." "Oh, well, yes, I remember her." "Well, she's here." I said, "She is? I haven't seen her." "Oh, Avis, she's the one that kind of walks around in a circle." I said, "That's Sister Ellen?" And yes. So she pointed her out, and there was a sister with a walker, just kind of walking. And I went over to her, and I said, "Sister Ellen?" She looked, "How do you know my name?" And I said, "Well, I remember you from, decades ago, from Sister of Mercy chapters. I remember you were a force to reckon with." She kind of smiled vaguely and kept walking. The world for which she had been so carefully prepared was being taken from her by the grace of God. As the week progressed, Sister Ellen walked in and out of the room. I didn't know, I had no sense. Sometimes she sat down, but no real sense of what she was experiencing. The final day of the retreat at the lunch, I was going around saying goodbye, and I went up to her table. And I said, "Sister Ellen, it was wonderful seeing you again." And without hesitation, she looked up at me and she said, "Avis, you did a very good job this week." And I was a force to reckon with, wasn't I? She smiled with complete, connected, knowing eyes, and there was an opening to the window of her soulful essence. Like Sarah at 90, Sister Ellen was still birthing mystery. You know better than I, John the 23rd carried a sense of the world for which he had been so carefully prepared. A sense of that same world to which he had been prepared was changing dramatically by the grace of God. And he called a council, knowing that he would not live to see its completion. "At least I've launched this big ship," Pope John the 23rd confided to a friend after the opening ceremonies of the Second Vatican Council. "Another will have the task of taking it out to sea." Yeah, that's nice, but that's what you've been doing. You've been taking it out to sea in your ministerial years, taking that vision out to sea, and then trying to keep it seaworthy. And you're still doing that today. You're still doing that today, even as the world for which you have been so carefully prepared is being taken from you by the grace of God. God is at work, spinning new Filippini kairos from your current chronos. As Sister Ashenza said during, yes, you're here. Luciana. As Sister Ashenza said to you, but listen to these words. This is your time. It is your turn to embrace our constitutions, to digest it, to make it your way of life, to live it faithfully and responsibly. Today we pray that you will be among those faithful daughters of St. Lucy who grasped her spirit, walked in her light, and live a life of dedication, because you will be expected to pass our spirit and heritage to a new generation that follows you. I could read that right now for everyone in this room. The summons is as ancient and ever new. Oh, I have that there. So I guess I'm doing that. There you have it. You could read that as if it was coming out in ripples over you this afternoon. Now is the only time we have. We're always embracing the vision of those constitutions, to digest it like Ezekiel did when he ate the scroll, to make it a way of life, to live it faithfully and responsibly. I'm here to be among you, the faithful daughters of St. Lucy, who I have been waiting to meet, those alive now who have grasped her spirit, who are walking in her light, and who are living a life of dedication. Because you are expected. And I feel it. And I'm just meeting you for the first time. I feel I'm expected to pass on her spirit and the heritage to new generations to come. The summons is as ancient and ever new as Paul's letter to the church at Colossae. Let your roots grow down into him, and let your lives be built on him. Then your faith will grow strong in the truth you were taught, and you will overflow with thankfulness. But talk about spinning kairos from chronos. Your sister Ninetta sent the first congratulatory message to Thomas Walsh, the first Roman Catholic Archbishop of Newark. A mere 3 days after his installation, she, along with a sister companion, made a beeline to his office. You know this story. She told the new Archbishop about their situation. You know that situation? The situation, she told the Archbishop, I just carried a chair over, that they had no chairs. I assumed there was a chair in a bedroom, and sister carried the one chair, and she carried it probably to the chapel, and then to the refectory, and then over to the classroom. The bishop opened his wallet, handing her a bill, and said, buy chairs as soon as you can. They were there with the Archbishop for more than 4 hours, with the bill clutched in her hand. It seems to me, I read it someplace, or I'm making it up. It's just too good not to. Well, I know this is, but clutching the bill and saw a zero, but didn't know what the rest of it was. Is this true? Yeah, okay. And she was dying to open her hand, but she didn't want to look, impolite or pushy. Upon leaving, she looked at the bill and saw it was $100. For the first time, this is a quote, for the first time, we took the streetcar home. $100 in 1918 would be $1,800 in 2018. Confidence and humility, conviction and courage, Trust in ecclesial goodness and being clear about needs, asking for help and receiving it, not for her sake alone, but for all God's people given into her care, your care. You started here in New Jersey needing a few chairs, and like manna in the desert, Sister Ninetta, Moses-like, trusted that the one who brought you this far would not abandon you. We hear such legends of old, and we can let them be new again for us, as if hearing them for the first time. When I heard this story first on video, and then I read it in one of the books, it really captured something for me, prompting the desire for that combination of qualities in the human character that could be inventive, bold, faithful, and graced for others. This inspired a desire to share this song with you. I don't quite know why, but it struck me, its words and its mood, as fitting for the Filipini sisters in Convocation. If you know it, please do sing along. It's a summons to the time that is ours. And so we begin a convocation, a summons beginning today, into the time that is ours in Christ's name. These days we will be savoring charism, livingness of lingering gifts, of Lucy and Sister Ninetta, and so many others. Charism from charis, meaning grace, bounding, charisma, the attraction of it all. Charismata, the ongoing gifts of the Spirit. So what time is it? How do you identify and name and claim the desire that emerges in this convocation? What is the hope, the desire for this sacred time? Where do you see the finger of God at work, spinning new Filipini kairos from your current chronos? In 2018, what is the chair? That need that you're seeking to address ministerially, corporately. Hopefully this might form your sharing at table this evening. because the Spirit is breaking in and will be with us, making all things new. Come, Holy Spirit, and enkindle in us the fire of your divine love. We will move at pace whenever you feel like moving forward. We were to conclude at 4:45, right? Oh, you can proceed to the chapel, and I will lead the way.